Thanks to Ubisoft for providing me with the code for review. This video might look a little familiar to you, and I just want to be fully transparent. The original recording of this video I was pretty sick when I did it, and looking back on it, I don't think I should have uploaded that at all. So what I've done is I've went ahead and I've re-recorded the entire video, added a few things in hopes of making that final product better. If you've already seen this video, I totally get if you want to skip out on it, and that's just fine. But I want to put my best foot forward when I'm making content, and I saw this as an opportunity to go ahead and fix that. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 was released all the way back in March of 2019, and while I was a big fan of that first game, I skipped out on the sequel until the Warlords of New York expansion was released in March of 2020. And since then, The Division 2 has been in a seasonal content mode, with new seasons being released at a 3 to 4 month cadence that would usually bring in new manhunts, new equipment, gear, and exotics. The team also added a roguelite mode called The Descent, a summit battle tower mode that sees you working your way up 99 floors of a skyscraper. They also rebalanced the entire game's economy, spent a year just updating and fixing the game's core systems. These seasons weren't anything major, but what they did was keep that narrative of the game moving forward, and in 2023, they announced that the Division 2 would be getting another paid expansion. While it did take some time to receive that expansion, we finally arrived at the release of the Battle for Brooklyn DLC 5 years after the last release of the major expansion. Battle for Brooklyn aims to be much smaller in terms of what it'll be offering, but it's also leaning heavily on that nostalgia factor as we finally head back to where it all started in the Division 1. So whether you're a seasoned Division player, or you're just hopping back into the game after a long hiatus, or jumping into the game for the first time because the game was added to Game Pass as of May 27th, hopefully after this video you have a good idea what to expect here and whether or not the Battle for Brooklyn DLC is worth that $15 asking price.
To save Brooklyn, the fight starts here. Security. Community. Something worth protecting. Brooklyn is our home. Without you, it'll burn.
As I like to do with all my reviews, I like to start out with a little bit of a technical block. I went ahead and I played the Battle for Brooklyn DLC on PC, running an RTX 4080, i7 13700K, all the settings at their max values, running the game at 1440p. There is no sort of DLSS or upscaling, at least I don't think there is. I don't believe I had any of that on. And the game ran great, usually 120 to 140 FPS, right around there. There was really no big dips during this expansion, and that was great. And for a game that came out in 2019, I have to give Massive Entertainment a lot of credit because the game continues to look really good. And I mean, like, really, really good. Especially Brooklyn in this fall setting. I loved it. I loved how it looked. And it's got me excited to see what they can do here moving forward with the Division 3, which was officially announced at the tail end of 2023. And like I said, performance-wise, the DLC ran great. I encountered personally 0 bugs or crashes in my playtime, but I do recommend if you are considering picking up this expansion, it's best to probably look up a few videos with comparable specs to yours so that you at least have an idea of what you'll be looking at. One of, if not the biggest draws of this whole expansion is the return to Brooklyn, as it's one of the first areas that you get to explore as a Division agent in the first game. This rendition of Brooklyn is pretty damn close to the real thing, and while I'm not from Brooklyn, I'm not from that area, I did spend a weekend back there in 2018, more specifically Dumbo, one of the exact areas that you get to explore in this DLC. I walked those streets in real life, and they're brought to life here in this game almost to an identical detail. It's a small thing, but it goes a long way in my enjoyment for the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, mixed in with that heavy nostalgia of that first game. While the actual area is going to be a small slice of Brooklyn with only 2 boroughs for you to explore, it's nice to have such a familiar area back from the Division 1. These streets, these areas that you're going to be visiting are all going to be areas that you've went to and that you've had memories from that first game. The story this go around sees you taking on the Cleaners, who have started attacking civilians and Division agents in the area with a new type of weapon, and you have to work with the Bridge Settlement and Theo to figure out what they're up to. There's 8 missions in total, with 3 of the main missions being separated from the map of Brooklyn. You get a little bit more uniqueness to them. They are sort of the big set pieces of the DLC, I would say. And then you have 5 story missions, which are going to take place within that existing map of Brooklyn. So overall, the length is going to run you, I would say, about 6 or so hours, depending on whatever difficulty that you're playing on. And given the price point of $15, I don't think that's bad, considering I just did a video on the Star Wars Outlaws Season Pass, which costs you $40 if it's not on sale. And that is about 6 hours of content that you get out of that. So do with that what you will. Honestly, it just felt nice to be running new content again, because while those seasonal missions and stories the last couple of years have kept that live service game running and moving, more often than not, you were just rerunning old content through areas you'd already been through hundreds of times at that point. Personally, I think there's going to be 2 camps of people when it comes to the Battle for Brooklyn DLC. There's going to be those die-hard Division fans who are just happy to have some new content to run to and can look past it not being as big as the Warlords of New York DLC. Then you have the camp of people who are maybe jumping into the game for the first time or returning after a long hiatus, and maybe they feel like that $15 price tag was not enough for what they got out of the DLC. The story of the expansion is a little hard to follow if you haven't been playing the seasonal storylines, and is sure as shit going to be confusing if you go straight from Warlords to Battle for Brooklyn with Theo showing up, so just a forewarning there. There's a lot of twists, a lot of things that happen with characters that kind of happen really quick, but when you consider the same team that was making this expansion was also working on the seasonal content for the game at the same time, I can cut them a little bit of slack, and Massive were pretty upfront with this being a much smaller offering leading up to that release. You do also get access to a new skill called the Smart Cover here with this DLC, and while it's nice to have that back from the first game, personally, I haven't found the right mods or build to get it into any of my existing builds. I know someone out there is probably going to make something crazy. It probably goes crazy in PvP, not really something I've checked out much. Something I have checked out is the 8 new Hunter challenges that are available with this DLC, each with their own mask and boss to take down. And these are always pretty fun to see how the community comes together to solve them with everyone. It's almost like a raid in Destiny where everyone's sharing secrets, or a zombies Easter egg. I think they're fun to do. There's a couple annoying ones, but in the end, I do think the masks were worth it. There is a new exotic mask that drops in the final mission of the campaign. Sadly, I haven't gotten it to drop yet, but I've heard it's also bugged or was bugged, so I'm not really in any rush to grab that at the moment. And another small aspect of this DLC that I like to mention is when you're out in the open world exploring, you actually come across new clothing and customization items just like you could in the first game. They aren't anything that's going to knock your socks off, but when you bring back mechanics and things that take me back 9 years, it does something, man. It took me back to a time when I was running around playing that first Division game in my college apartment, skipping classes for 2 days, mind you. I loved that shit. It was my jam back then. In general, the amount of stuff that you can do within the open world of Brooklyn is pretty solid. You've got control points, open world events, bounties that spawn, and I suspect this area is going to be great for XP events just due to that small nature of the map. For PvP and Dark Zone players, unfortunately, there wasn't anything new added here with this release, so I don't have anything to report on that front. So at the end of the day, when you ask the question, is the Battle for Brooklyn DLC worth it? I think if you're an existing Division 2 player and you're looking for more content, you've probably already played through the Warlords of New York expansion, then this is more than likely up your alley. But if you're someone that's a little bit on the fence, I would say go ahead and pick up the Warlords of New York expansion. You can usually find it on sale sometimes for like $7 to $10 or so. Just know that when you pick that up, it is at a discounted price because it's obviously 5 years post-release. You are going to get more content out of that than the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, but it's a litmus test to see what you would like and maybe if you'd like to keep playing more of the Division after that. With the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, you get a short but fun campaign that takes you back to a lot of locations from the prologue of that first Division game. While the length of the DLC is something I think some players could be upset with, this was a small team with limited resources that made a DLC for a game that hadn't received any new expansions for 5 years. So I suspect a lot of people are just going to be happy to have new Division content to run. Having done everything in this new map, I'm happy with what we ended up playing, and I do just wish it was just a tad bit longer, but that's any gamer nowadays. This rendition of Brooklyn is one I'm sure that is to excite old players, intrigue new players as they hop into the game for the first time, and if this is the end of the Division 2's DLC, I'm okay with that as we look forward to the Division 3. If you did enjoy the video, consider dropping it a like and subscribing so you can catch all my upcoming reviews and previews. I've got a video out for F125. It's different. I know it's a little odd, a racing video, but I've been having a lot of fun. I got super addicted to the sport of Formula One, and I figured, why the hell not? I'm a lot happier with how this version of the video turned out. Personally, if you did watch both versions of it, I really appreciate you sticking with me and through this whole process. I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. Also, thank you again to Ubisoft for providing me with the code for the review. And as always, if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. And this has been my review for the Division 2 Battle for Brooklyn. Thank you for watching.